Hi everybody. I thought I'd give you a little tour of my studio and the keyboard collection I'm using in production and also on stage, obviously. I'm sitting here at a Hammond XK3c, which is a modern version of a Hammond organ. Some of you might know that the old Hammond organs, they were based out of these gear wheels basically, and for every octave there were 12 of these and all in all there were something like 75 of those spinning, and they were picked up by a pickup and that generated a tone. Now why is it like that? Well, good old Lawrence Hammond actually was a clock builder, and so his main business was building synchronous clocks, and being the man he was and the profession he had, he obviously built an organ with parts he knew, and there were gear wheels and synchronous motors, which kept the organ in sync with the 60 hertz in the US or 50 hertz cycles in Europe, and that made it steady and well tuned all the time. So anyway, this is now an electronic version. The upper manual is actually the brain. This contains all the electronics and all the virtual tone wheels, as Hammond calls them. And then the lower piece has it's just a MIDI keyboard basically, and it sends MIDI through channel 2 to the upper part and generates then the tone for the lower keyboard. And this is how it sounds. And so on and so forth. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm not having a Leslie up here. And actually, I own two Leslies. I have a Hohner ORT 100 and I have a Leslie M21 MK2. Both of them are in the rehearsal room. They are super loud, and I don't need them in the studio. So basically, I just use the built-in Leslie effect. And now I'll tell you something about the pedal board. Now the pedal board is actually coming from a real Hammond B3. I got it shipped from the United States all the way. And the bench is also original, super old bench from a Hammond A3, I think, and it came from a church. That's why it has all these ornaments and stuff. So I bought these, and the electronics I actually built myself using a kit from good old Mr. Döpfer. It's basically a MIDI keyboard kit, and so in here there are reed contacts, and I put magnets onto the pedals so that they're triggering the reed contacts. The main benefit of this is that they don't get dirty, and there is no dust which can build up on the contacts. So it's always a pretty good contact made there. And yeah, that's all put together pretty much in a way that an original Hammond organ would have been. The only difference is that I put the volume pedal in, I think, a bit more nicer location than originally. It's up here on this stand, and it makes it like the feeling of a real Hammond organ, but for me it's super difficult to play like that, because you always have to move the foot like super silly, and so for me it's much more convenient to have it down here. But if someone wants to use it in the real way, they can put the pedal up here, and then it's the real thing. So enough of the Hammond organ. Let's move over to the Behringer Poly-D. Now I hear already people shouting at me that, oh, this is not a real Minimoog, and yada yada yada. I have a bunch of Moogs here, and so I think I can compare sounds. And I mean, you can create almost every sound with every synth, and using the same electronic components that Moog used back in 1970, putting them together in the same way. There is no way around that it will sound exactly the same. There is no voodoo behind it, and whether there are old or new capacitors in it, it's just maybe a minor change in sound. And I simply wasn't willing to shell out 4,000 or 5,000 euros for a monophonic synthesizer from the year 1970, right, which is now 50 years old. And I have a few Moogs here which are like 42 years old. I get to those later, and they constantly cause trouble. They need attention all the time because electronics fail, right? And so that was the reason why I went for the Behringer Poly-D. I always wanted to dearly have a Minimoog since I was young. I mean, I was like, you know, in school, usually you do anything but learn. And I was always painting Minimoogs on my, you know, school books. So I really wanted to have that thing. I had the chance to play one back in the day in a studio together with Moog, which I also owned at one time. And it was absolutely fantastic. And I love the sound, but as I said, I'm not willing to shell out 4,000 euros for that. As I said, I mean, sound-wise, I don't think anyone would be able to distinguish between a real Minimoog and the Poly-D. So I'm kind of grateful to Uli Behringer to clone the crap out of these old synths and make them really affordable. And as I said, this just sounds like a Minimoog. The nice thing though is that because it has 4 oscillators, I easily can switch a sound to from a kind of Pink Floydish sound to a Rick Wakeman style sound. But that's about as far memory goes on this one, right? So I'm really pleased with it. And it runs through a TC Electronics flashback stereo delay, which gives me that delay sound. Without, it sounds like that. Right? There's still a little bit of reverb on it, which comes from my rack over there. But the echo is actually recorded from here through the TC Electronics. So if I'm recording this, I use a TC Electronics flashback. I'm not adding any reverb or delay later in the production process. It sounds as it sounds, and that's it, right? Right, let's move on to the modular